The chair across from him scraped loudly as someone pulled it back, and for a split second Daniel thought it was meant for him, an intrusion, an interruption. He tightened his grip around the warm coffee mug, eyes fixed on the empty seat as if daring it to stay empty. He had chosen this corner diner at the edge of town for one reason only, to eat alone. But before he could look away, a soft, hesitant voice broke through the clatter of plates and murmurs of strangers. "I'm sorry to bother you," the woman said, her words trembling just enough to be noticed. "My son's hungry. Can we stay a while?" Daniel blinked, caught off guard. He looked up and saw her standing there, one hand resting protectively on the shoulder of a thin boy who couldn't have been more than 7. The child's eyes were wide, dark, and tired, fixed not on Daniel but on the basket of bread rolls steaming gently between them. The woman's coat was worn thin at the elbows, her hair pulled back in a rushed knot, strands slipping free. She didn't look demanding or entitled, she looked desperate in the quiet, dignified way people try to hide when they've already swallowed their pride. He had come to this diner every Thursday night since his wife died. Same booth. Same meal. Same silence. It was the one place where the world didn't expect anything from him. No sympathy. No forced conversations. No reminders of the empty house waiting for him after. Just the scrape of forks, the hum of the old refrigerator, and the comforting lie that loneliness was something he could control. And now here she was, standing in that fragile bubble he had built for himself. I'm meeting someone," Daniel said automatically, the lie slipping out before he could stop it. The woman nodded quickly, already stepping back. "Oh, of course. I'm sorry," she said, her shoulders sagging as she guided the boy away. But the child lingered for just a second longer. He glanced up at Daniel, then at the untouched plate in front of him, and whispered, almost to himself, "It smells really good." Something in Daniel's chest cracked. He watched them walk toward an empty table near the window, the boy's small hand clenched tightly in his mother's coat as if afraid she might disappear. The waitress approached Daniel's booth, pen poised, her practiced smile slipping when she followed his gaze. "They come in sometimes," she said quietly. "She usually just orders soup. If she can." Daniel looked back at his plate. The food suddenly tasted like cardboard. He remembered another small hand tugging at his sleeve years ago, another voice asking if he could have a bite. He hadn't thought of that in a long time. He pushed his plate away, stood up, and surprised himself by calling out, "Hey! You can sit here. There's plenty of room." The woman turned, startled. Her eyes filled with disbelief before she masked it with cautious gratitude. "Are you sure? We don't want to." "It's fine," Daniel said, though his heart was pounding. "Really?" They slid into the booth across from him, the boy climbing in first, eyes lighting up as if the vinyl seat itself were a gift. The woman sat stiffly, hands folded, as though ready to bolt at the first sign of regret. "I'm Daniel," he said, forcing his voice to steady. "Maria," she replied softly. "And this is Lucas." Lucas smiled shyly, then immediately reached for a roll, stopping when his mother gave him a look. Daniel laughed, a sound that surprised all three of them. "Go ahead," he said. "They're better when they're warm." Lucas didn't hesitate this time. He tore into the bread with quiet enthusiasm, chewing carefully, like someone who had learned not to waste a single bite. Daniel felt something twist inside him, not pity exactly, but recognition. Hunger had a way of teaching lessons no child should learn. As they ate, conversation came in fragments. Maria worked 2 jobs when she could find them. Lucas loved dinosaurs and wanted to be a paleontologist, though he admitted he mostly liked the word because it was loan. Daniel listened more than he spoke, but for the first time in months, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt shared. When the waitress returned, Daniel ordered another meal without looking at the menu. Maria tried to protest, her voice barely above a whisper, but he shook his head. "Please," he said. "I could use the company." Halfway through the meal, Lucas asked, "Why are you always here on Thursdays?" Daniel froze. The question was innocent, but it hit him harder than he expected. Maria shot her son a warning look, but Daniel raised a hand. It's okay, he said slowly. My wife and I used to come here every week. After she passed. I guess I didn't know where else to go. Maria's expression softened. She didn't offer condolences or platitudes. She just nodded, as if she understood exactly what that kind of emptiness felt like. She used to say this place felt like home, Daniel continued, surprising himself with how easily the words came. I think I kept coming back because it was the closest thing I had left. Lucas swallowed and said, my dad used to take us to the park. Even when it was cold. Maria's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. The air between them shifted, not awkward, but honest. Loss recognized loss, and for a moment, it felt like the three of them were sitting inside the same quiet truth. When the plates were cleared, Daniel reached for his wallet, but Maria gently stopped him. You've done more than enough, she said. Really? Daniel smiled faintly. Maybe. But tonight, I didn't eat alone. That counts for something. Outside, the night had settled into a soft drizzle, the streetlights casting golden reflections on the wet pavement. Daniel watched as Maria buttoned Lucas's coat, her movements careful and practiced. He hesitated, then asked, Do you come here every Thursday? She nodded. Sometimes. It's warm. And Lucas likes the bread. Daniel felt that crack in his chest widen, not in pain, but in possibility. Then maybe, he said, we could make it a tradition. Together. Maria studied him for a long moment, weighing trust against need. Finally, she smiled, small, but real. I think we'd like that. As they walked their separate ways, Daniel realized something had shifted. The diner would never again be just a place to hide. It had become a place where loneliness met kindness, where strangers became something closer to family, even if only for an hour. And as he headed home, the empty house didn't feel quite so empty anymore. Because sometimes, the meal you plan to eat alone becomes the moment that feeds you the most.